YouOrns. Greetings, fellow Watford fans. Omar here, and it's time for another edition of the YouOrns 10-minute take on Watford 3, Stoke City 0. And the Hornets got off to a flying start in this second half of this game. But look, what a week we've had. 3 wins from 3 games, and it's been very good so far. Considering before the start of the season, just last weekend, there were quite a few Watford fans with very dour and pessimistic predictions for this season. Some were even saying that Watford would be relegated. Others were saying it was going to be a relegation scrap. Some Watford fans actually told me that they'd be in the bottom 6. Wow, so far, no evidence of that in the early going, as Watford's win against Millwall last weekend, followed up by the Carabao Cup win in midweek against MK Dons. And then today, at the Vic, for the second time inside of 5 days, Watford holding their opposition scoreless with a 3-0 win. Stoke coming into this game with a 100% record, and they looked quite good for the first 5 or 6 minutes. They should have scored early on, some good saves made by Daniel Bachmann. But then from there, Watford began to work their way into this contest. They did play, I thought, some good football in the first half, but there were 2 problems. One, the last ball, that final pass, that final ball wasn't quite sharp enough for Watford. And Jeremy Ngakia, who was very good in this game, playing off the left flank, of course, is a right footer, which meant that the opportunities to get balls in quickly were not going to happen because there would need to be a stop for Ngakia to cut inside on his right rather than just bomb the ball in on his left because, of course, he's not left-footed. Tom cleverly rectified that issue after a scoreless first half, and at halftime, he changed the lineup by taking out Ngakia and bringing in Larouci, who is a left-sided, left-footed player on that left wing. And the difference was immediate and immense because within 2.5 minutes of the restart, Ido Kayembe got on the score sheet for the Hornets, and that was all. Watford would not need any more goals, but they pursued more goals, which is always encouraging because Watford, we have a tendency to sit on 1-0 leads, don't we? Home or away, but not today, because within a minute and a half after that goal from Ido Kayembe, Ryan Andrews doubled the Hornets' lead, and he scored his first goal of the campaign. 2-0 then to Watford, and Stoke were really at 6s and 7s. Watford would add a third goal, again from Ido Kayembe, his second of the game, his third of the season. 3 from 2 in the championship now from Ido Kayembe, and he is absolutely looking hot to trot at the moment, on fire, the man of the match. The YouOrns man of the match, Ido Kayembe. But there were really a lot of unsung heroes in this contest at the Vic. I think it was the defense you really have to thank for this win, as well as the midfield. A lot will be focused and talked, of course, about Ido Kayembe, who has been brilliant so far to start this campaign. But really, you need to put the focus on the defense and on the midfield. The defense was absolutely brilliant in this contest. Sierralta was one of the standouts, as was Matty Pollock, who once again is proven that he belongs in that back line after his performance last week. And of course, his goal during midweek. The captain's armband went to him in that game against MK Dons. And Matty Pollock proved that he is more than capable of leading that back line. He played very, very well again in this contest, as did all that back line. James Morris didn't put a foot wrong either, coming in and deputizing for Ryan Porteous, who was designated as having a mild illness. He was on the bench and didn't see any playing time in this game. The Hornets were motoring very well at the back, and that's the biggest reason why Daniel Bachmann had hardly anything to do in this game, apart from early on and late on. The defense was very, very good. But also, the midfield was a massive factor why Watford were so commanding, especially in the second half of the game. It was the likes of Moussa Sissoko, again brilliant. It was the likes of TDB, again brilliant. Both of them marshalling and anchoring that holding midfield with aplomb. There were some very positive moments from TDB, much more aggressive on the ball in close quarters. He really has a knack now to be much more free about the way he plays. His confidence level, bringing up the ball through midfield and then pushing the ball forward, running forward with the ball, or putting in a really good pass to link up the forward line from the midfield is something that we missed really, really sorely last season and in prior seasons. But this season, you can see the discipline and the skill set coming from TDB, the confidence and the leadership that he is taking on. You can see it growing in game to game from him. And certainly there's a big reason why, not just because TDB has improved, but also because he's got beside him Musa Sissoko, who comes back for a second tour of duty with the Hornets, playing as well as he ever did 3 seasons ago or so when he was first with us. And he was a really good calming influence there in that midfield. You really like the energy and the tenacity that both of these players give you. You have an active, dynamic, and incisive midfield that really helps to move the possession forward. A very progressive, forward-thinking midfield that I think has definitely made a difference to the way Watford play. And you can see it on the pitch. And of course, you've got Georgie in the attacking role in that midfield, who brings the ball forward and makes plays happen and is always in the middle of things, it seems. Georgie, again, having a sparkling start to his brand new season at the Vic. And look, Georgie now is one of the top players on this team. I predicted before this season began that he would end this season as the Graham Taylor Watford FC player of the season. And I'm telling you, I think I'm going to be right on that score. I predicted that the score, speaking of which, will be Watford 3, Stoke 1. Well, almost right, but I'm glad it was wrong because a clean sheet means much more than having a predicted score be correct. I assure you, particularly when it's a 3-1 prediction. Watford's defense, again, was the reason why this game was won, and that midfield as well. They really controlled the way this game was played, shut down Stoke's game, and curiously enough, their manager, Steven Schumacher, decided to play Stoke in a very narrow defensive formation, which meant that they were giving up lots of space on the left and right flanks. And when you give up lots of space on the left and the right flanks, you are really susceptible to a lot of trouble, a lot of balls crossed in low and hard into your box. And that means you're going to be defending a lot deeper than you want to. And that means that there's going to be a lot more opportunities for targets on goal. I counted at least 23 attempts on goal by Watford in this game, and at least 8 or 9 of those were on target. That's just absolutely phenomenal. And that's what happens when you play your defense very narrow and you seed the channels as they did all day long. It was only a matter of time before Tom Cleverley saw what was going on, made the adjustments, and the adjustments paid off on both the left and right flanks. And in the second half, you saw the joy coming from the right-hand side. Ryan Andrews bombed on down that right-hand side, looking very, very good indeed. And he deserved the goal that he got, as did Ida Kayembe for his industry. 2 other players who should have scored in the contest but did not, who richly deserved goals, were Georgie and Bio, who had a fantastic game. Do not let anyone tell you that this man does not belong at Vicarage Road. Bakun Bio is the genuine article, and yes, we'd all love to see him score more often, but it is an absolute joy to watch this man work. He really does play for the shirt. He works very hard, front to back. He works at both ends of the pitch. He plays his part, doing the little things. He does the dirty work in defense, and he also holds up the play. For someone who is not a prototypical striker, a prototypical number 9, he is somebody that does everything you ask him to on the pitch. And I'd love to have 10 more Vakun Bios on the pitch, even if they don't score very often. It's the work ethic that really counts. And that's why Tom Cleverley starts the man each and every week in the championship, because he knows this man's going to give 110% effort. Speaking of Tom Cleverley, he got the substitutions right as well today. He did not make substitutions out of panic. He did not make substitutions in a untimely manner. He studied the game. He saw what was going on with Stefan Schumacher, and he was able to put the subs in exactly when they were needed, to tweak here, to tweak there, and everything worked the way that Tom Cleverley planned for. And the manager really has to be given a big shout tonight after his really good, well-executed game plan. It came off very, very well indeed. Very encouraging signs from Watford at this point of the season. So early, so much to go, so many more games to play, but you want to at least start with a 100% record. You'd rather that than the alternative. And when you look at players like Kwadwo Bar, who had a fantastic game on Tuesday night, scoring the goal, I saw the highlights of which he really was a razor sharp player on the night on Tuesday. You saw him follow that up with a very good display coming off the bench. Looked like a real threat down that left side, cutting in deep. Listen, when you've got the likes of Larucci and Barr, Ken Sema might be seeing a lot more time on the bench. As such, Ken Sema didn't get off the bench at all in this game, but it's always great to have Ken Sema as your insurance policy. It seems as if, on the basis of what we saw today, though, Tom Cleverley just might put Larucci into these games a lot earlier than he might have planned. If you've got Ngakea starting these games, and if you've got Larucci, and if you've got the likes of Kwadwo Bar, you've got some real threats in there who can create a lot of havoc in that 18-yard and 6-yard area, which will certainly be a very good benefit to Watford. Today, from top to bottom, everybody played well when they really needed to. The second half was the crowning glory in this game. Stoke never really had a look in, except for the beginning and the end of the match. And then near the end of the match, Daniel Batman had to make a great save one-on-one. The goalkeeper was with one of the Stoke players, and the Stoke player just fired the ball straight into a sprawling backman, who I thought played very well today as well, even though he didn't have a whole lot to do. What I saw differently from Daniel Batman in this game was the way he applied himself, much more aggressive and much more thoughtful in his goalkeeping approach. The way he commanded his area, the way he jumped off his line, he knew when to go, when to stay, and his distribution was a lot better as well. I think that Daniel Batman is really growing and maturing as a goalkeeper. You're beginning to see that this season from him. The confidence level is there, the discipline level is there, and you can see that the leader that he is becoming, the maturity of Daniel Batman from just even a season or two ago. He's learned a lot in the last year and a half, having had the captaincy taken from him, having to sit for large periods of last season under the tutelage of Ben Hamer, the veteran. I think he's really grown because of those experiences, and you can see that Daniel Batman's character has grown as a result. This Watford team has a bit about it this season. They look much more coherent, much more organized, much more dynamic, much more thoughtful. They look as if they're all on the same page. They're not playing selfish football. They're not playing individual football. They're playing for the shirt, and you can tell, you can feel it, you can see it, and you know that this looks like a team now that is completely wired into the vision that Cleves has put forth. And when you've got that going on, you perhaps potentially have something special going on. This has been the YouOrns 10-minute take.